But moving away from this general thing that we all understand, let me now bring in somebody who will talk specifically about what the physical inputs can also do. So I'd like to ask Neeraj to make a few comments. Neeraj Manchanda is the managing partner of NMA Architects, and they've worked extensively on school design. So let's get a perspective on how physical infrastructure can change things.
Well, I certainly am a bit of an outsider in this gathering, but it's a total pleasure to be here. And we do design educational environments, learning environments of all kinds. So, from the perspective of design, I think I have to say, I bring the agenda of design to you and say that, good design can actually improve people's lives. And schools in this regard are extremely special places, because schools are environments where in their formative years, let's say the physicality of one school may end up impacting very directly, as in the case of the impact that is created by people who are facilitating the learning. The built environment and the open environment can also impact between 25 and 50,000 people in the lifetime of a school. That's a very, very large number. And this is an opportunity that I think schools need to recognize, not only in terms of the pedagogy and the curriculum that is designed, but also to further the vision that is set out, how the physical environment can actually tailor itself or work itself into supporting the vision or furthering the philosophy that a school needs to work through with its core constituency, its students. And we've had the privilege to work with a lot of progressive promoters, boards, and I'm able to say and verify for you that every time, this conversation has gone to making learning environments progressive, it has had to do with getting away from administration centricity or organizational centricity towards student centricity. And there are a variety of things one can do physically in the design of a school environment to make this visibly and tangibly happen. It has gone from instructional modes to assimilative modes or experiential modes or learning by doing modes. Sometimes in very simple ways. That's also a trend that, I hear the minister and Mr. Bharatram and most of you talking about this need for change that was just mentioned right now. This need to not run away from our traditional understanding of what the education model was, which actually was a very progressive model. I mean, learning by doing is an Indian model actually. And how one reinterprets that in design is a big question. Going away from the Victorian setting of the classroom, and here I would like to suggest that we just lose the room in the classroom completely in our conversations here on, because the idea of being able to redefine space in a manner which is not room-centric, music room, multipurpose room, class room, laboratory room, principal's room. I mean, let's just lose the room. Let's try to lose the room and see what happens when you lose the room. Do we get something new coming out of this? And specifically to capture the main sense of what it is that we try to do and we want to further, especially at this critical juncture going forward when there is this explosion that we need to see of good learning environments, is the ability all of us together can have to create settings not for instruction but for elective engagement. I'm not particularly, it's not my domain to talk about what kind of curriculum one has to run. all of you are here to sort of, define the new interpretation of curriculum. But what I can say is that if we are able to find settings for elective engagement that students individually or students in groups can use to engage with what they're doing, settings for reflective engagement, and settings for engagement through entertainment, whether it is digital or not, I will refrain from saying, but entertainment and challenge. This is really the core of what I think we should be doing when we look at the physicality of the school environment, and get away from the, 35 rooms down a doubly loaded corridor sort of a format, and break away from that. And there's a very big reason for this, and that's the last thing that I want to say before we just get back into the discussion format. This was also mentioned in passing by Mr. Bharatram, I think, in his speech a little bit earlier. Graduating students 10 years from today are going to be in a very different world. They are not going to be where we think we are or where we think we will be in 10 years. They're going to be way beyond that. If we go at the same speed we're going right now in skilling people the way we are skilling them, we'll be obsolete before we finish skilling them. There's no question about this. 10 years down the road, this whole business of this whole combine, AI combine plus computational power combine plus automation combine, this is going to take away all the jobs, or many of the jobs which are task-centric. We are going to be coming back to, putting a premium on things that human beings do, logic systems, thought. Somebody mentioned, thinking in schools, creativity. The creative aspects of human beings are going to be, at a premium. Philosophy. So this is the sort of skill set that will remain very, very relevant going forward. How do we create a school? How do we pitch the school in the future which can support this kind of environment is what we are very, very interested in understanding together with you, learning from you so that we can service that requirement.
Thank you, Neeraj.